I'm Kevin Coleman at @TheBoys_22.
I'm Jeff Bell at For Whom J. Bell Tolls.
And I am Christian Williams at C. Williams NFL, and this is the Devy Royale.
I do this day in and day out, all night long. Yeah. This all I think about. This all I care about. Y'all all I care about. Let's go, man, it's here. We televised, so you know we gotta show out. Yeah. They talking junk, so you know we gotta put them to sleep. Yeah. Let's go, man. Let's go. Don't play. Go. We do this every day. We work too hard, day in and day, like I told y'all. They don't do what we do. They don't do what we do. They never done what we did.
To the races, can they catch him? No, they can't. Touchdown.
Welcome to another episode of the Devy Royale, a member of the Going for Two family. We have finally made it to August, everybody. College football is coming 25 days, and we will finally have real football to talk about. But today on the show, we'll be doing a Devy breakdown on the top three teams of the Big 12 for now. We're going to be one lonely top three team there in a couple years. Mashup of sports events. We're going to be discussing training camp battles we are most looking forward to in the NFL side of it. But before that, we got to dive into some much-needed college football news. It's been an exciting couple weeks here for at least we got some news out there. And the news of Quinn Ewers, the number one rated quarterback for next year's class, reclassified and went into Ohio State. And I know our listeners are sick of talking about Ohio State, and I am definitely sick of talking about Ohio State, especially after last week and Jeff and everything going on. But this is huge news. This is a massive ripple in the Devy landscape and college football landscape. So just real quick thoughts on this, Christian. What are your overall reactions to this? Does it make sense? What do you think?
This is groundbreaking, man. Like this is uncharted territory. And I knew we were about to get into uncharted territory. We talked about that a lot with the NIL stuff and with conference realignment and all of those things. But for a kid to say, I am foregoing my senior season of high school, that is not a sentence that I expected to hear this year. And for it to be I know it's way too early to put the generational tag on this kid, obviously. But as a high school football player, he has one of the best arms I've seen in probably forever. Like the kid has arm talent. It's insane. And a lot of people are saying, well, they don't think that Ewers has a chance to go win that job at Ohio State. I wouldn't be shocked if he got on the field a little bit this year. If he is able to get on campus, he technically hasn't even signed yet, I saw today. Ryan Day pretty much had to act like the kid didn't exist, so he didn't get in trouble. But this is it's throwing a pretty huge wrinkle into that quarterback room too that had a pretty clear plan, and those plans are kind of out the door. Jeff, as our resident Ohio State fan, how are you feeling?
I purposely went to you first, Christian. I didn't want to hear Jeff's takes. All right, Jeff, go ahead. Tell us how you're feeling.
It is a great day to be a Buckeye. So Ryan Day bringing these guys in, 5-star after 5-star. I was worried about Ewers, to be honest with you, because if Steve Sarkisian got things cooking in Texas, if there was a whole nother year before he was going to commit anywhere, that would be a situation where maybe the recruiting with them potentially, 2025 is when they go into the SEC, so he'd probably be phased out by then. He should be class of 24, I believe, now. But that was a consideration where Sarkisian gets it moving in the right direction. Ewers starts to feel a little bit more comfortable with that program, decides he's going to stay home. And so Ryan Day getting this done and getting him in the building, I think is going to be fantastic. The thing that I go back to, so there is, to keep in mind, I believe you can play 4 games and still redshirt. So I wonder if they get him on the field a little bit and they kind of preserve that eligibility unless he goes out there and just crushes and takes the job. But, being at the beginning of August, I have a hard time seeing that happen. That could be the type of thing where maybe later in the season they work in situations to get him some live action. Kevin, we talked about it months ago, and I dismissed the possibility at first about them running a 2-quarterback system. But I keep circling it, and it feels like, depending on what Ryan Day's goals are to win the national championship. But I believe that almost more importantly than that is to produce NFL level talent to keep the pipeline churning, because recruiting is the lifeblood of college football. And if Ohio State is going to be shut out of the SEC, they need to do something to set their program apart. And I'm not sure that they're exactly going to be shut out of the SEC, whatever it turns out there. But it is a relief to know that we're not going to use Ewers to Texas. And I have full faith that Ryan Day is going to do a better job juggling this than he knows what he's doing. So let's give him a break.
Well, okay. So a couple of things to unpack here. First of all, my hope as a Michigan guy was that your scenario play out, or McCord looked really good, and then Ewers says, I'm just going to go to Texas and do that. And then when he reclassified, guys, this changes everything. Like, this changes a lot of different opinions. Like, why wouldn't running backs? I know Jadon Blue didn't reclassify, but he opted out because of wear and tear. He decided, hey, I'm just not going to do it. What if we start seeing other guys start, hey, you know what, I'm going to take a lot of classes. I'm going to get in as fast as possible, because a lot of these guys, like Ewers, is in a weird situation. I think his parents are pretty well off for the most part. I didn't see a financial burden, but I mean, $1 million is $1 million. But if these other guys that have, way more financial burdens than other people, are going to be looking to get into college as fast as they can, because then they can get name, image, and likeness. And I think, to Christian's credit, to his point, his article, that's another thing that he mentioned, just getting into college, and that could change people's lives. They don't even have to make the NFL anymore. That's not even a thing. And so this is monumental in terms of all of that. And like I was saying pre-show, go ahead, Jeff.
I do want to say Tony Grimes from UNC did this last year. And he was, I don't know if he was the number 1 corner in the class, but he skipped out his senior year and enrolled in UNC, and he played last year. And so he was a big time 5-star prospect. And so it's Quinn Ewers is Quinn Ewers, and he's going to draw the attention, but this is not unprecedented. And so it is interesting, but also to start that clock and get that money. Yeah.
Got to start it. I mean, I was talking to guys pre-show. Stroud, even Jack Miller, McCord, they could all start for another Big Ten school today. They could transfer and be every other team starter. So we're talking about a loaded QB room. I do want to talk about who we think is going to be there, and I know Christian talked about yours. But the one thing I do want to mention, and I've been hearing a lot of Devy podcasts, and it's okay. They can have an opinion, even if it's wrong. They talk about it being Ryan Day's, this is a bad thing for Ryan Day. I don't see that. I think that, you know what, the kids on that team are going to see that, hey, he's trying to put the best recruits on the field to win a national title. If the national title comes this year, and let's say Ewers has a role, then he did his job. He's not going to care about a fallout from kids being upset they're not getting playing time. We watched Jameson Williams just transfer from Ohio State, and we thought he was going to go somewhere else. Where'd he go? Freaking Alabama. These kids want to go to these programs. I don't think this – I've heard things like Ryan Day is not going to be there in 3 years. This is going to be a bad sour on the recruiting trail. I think the brand is more important to these kids. Ohio State is a major brand. It matters. I think this is actually a good thing for Ryan Day, because if I look at Ryan Day, I'm like, you know what? That guy is trying to win. He's building up a massive program. Even if I play 1 year and do well at Ohio State, I can still get drafted. Look at – and especially if we see Justin Fields get – what we think Justin Fields is going to be from this show, what we think he's going to be. Imagine what that's going to do for all of these recruits. I'm not on that train that this is bad for Ohio State. How could be getting the number 1 recruit again in another year be bad for a program? It's just not to me, because even if those guys that transfer, they're not – people aren't going to be like, oh, see, Ohio State, you're bad. Really, it's not. It's that they couldn't win the job. They gave it to the best kid there, and they put their team in front. I don't think kids are going to really – be a problem with that. I think they're going to compete, and kids are hard workers. What is your opinion on that, Christian? Do you think I'm crazy, or do you think, hey, this is it? This is good for the Ohio State program?
You're right, but I do think it's twofold, right? I think a lot of F-bombs probably were heard in that quarterback room when the news dropped, I'm sure Kyle McCord now, who was the best freshman quarterback in his school and is now not that, that is an absurd thing to consider and process. Granted, like you said, these kids are competitors. They need to go out and lose the job before they consider all of those other options, right? And I think all these kids will. To your point about Ryan Day, not people saying he won't be there in 3 years, the only way that's true is if he has an NFL job. Ryan Day is, Ohio State has been blessed with some good coaching. Ryan Day, with the scheme that he implements and just everything I see from him, I can argue that he's going to be there for a very, very long time. And obviously, he's one of the younger ones to have come through Ohio State, and he was part of the pipeline. And so I don't see a world in which Ryan Day isn't here, especially with the recruiting trail that he has already left in his, 2 years? 2 years that he's been there, 3 years, whatever. Jeff, how do you feel about that situation?
So I want to paint a picture here. And if Ryan Day is able to manage this properly, we could be sitting here in the 2024 draft, and Ryan Day could have 2 quarterbacks go top 5, top 10 in the same draft. And that would be unprecedented. I'm just saying, if he figures out a way to do this, and just imagine the recruiting shine on a coach that was able to produce 2 top 5 or top 10 quarterbacks in a single draft, it would be wild. And so I'm not going to play the I know people who know people card, but I know people. I have had conversations with people who know people, and I'm saying that Ryan Day and his wife and his young kids have lived the NFL coach life. They've seen the other side. So this is not the type of thing where this is a lifelong dream to get into the NFL because it's the NFL. There is one job that is a lifelong dream for Ryan Day, and it's the New England Patriots. Outside of that, they've experienced the grind and experienced everything that goes with the NFL. They've moved year after year through the NFL life. And when you got young kids, and I have heard through the grapevine, through the family, that they very much enjoy the community in Columbus, and they enjoy the ability to raise their kids and feel like they can set roots down. And Ohio State is the type of program, especially at his age, he could be here for 30 years. And that's the reality of it. And so they're a family guy. He grew up in rural New Hampshire. He's a family-oriented guy. He's not this guy that's out there chasing. He's not Pete Carroll, like bumping elbows with Snoop Dogg at practice. It's the type of thing where he's got his values and he knows what he values. And so I don't see him, absent that Patriots job coming open, I think he's very comfortable at Ohio State.
Yeah, I mean, why would you want to go coach for the Texans? Like, I have no part. I mean, why you stay at Ohio State? It's a mini NFL program. I mean, that's really what it is. Like, I understand that. I think he's still there. I think we do need to talk about what it means for that QB room in terms of Devy. Like, with where their ADP is at, and so let's start here. Christian, where would you rank Ewers in Devy then as a quarterback? Like, how high are you taking him above those other quarterbacks? Like with DJU, Bryce Young, Sam Howell, where do you feel comfortable taking Ewers?
Okay, so my first 2024 quarterback comes in. It's still Caleb Williams. We talked 2024 recently. Mm-hmm. It's now not. Obviously, Ewers is the first one, but that is like the back end of my top 10 because of the weight. I think you can turn the value of the 22 and 23 guys into Ewers plus if he sits, and so for now, I would say like with Ewers though, it's probably like 6, 7, 8 range. Kid's so freaking good. And then now I know that this wasn't part of your question, but expanding a little bit, I mean, I think I have to bump McCord down a couple spots, just knowing that it's more of a challenge for him to get on the field. Of course, I would love to see how this room plays out. There's a chance that McCord goes out and he wins the job over Stroud this year, and then it's just McCord and Ewers. I don't think that's very likely, though. I think Stroud's probably going to start this year. Jeff's point about a 2-quarterback system, I think Day would be smart to do it. I don't know if we see it. I'm so intrigued to follow camp and kind of the reports coming out of there. Jeff, where are you ranking Ewers?
Gosh,
number one.
Part of me.
See, Christian's the modest guy. Jeff's gonna be like QB1 right now. Watch. Here it comes.
He's not QB1. But I do kind of want to get aggressive and put him at like 5 because let's get spicy because this is a guy that we've been waiting on, excited about, and so you inject him into the system, you move him up a year. It's interesting. It seems like the other 4 above him, the clear. It feels like there's a clear top 4, and everybody's kind of talked about that. The 5th is kind of dealer choice, and so if he's going to be the guy, The other thing too is, God forbid, when these guys gets hurt, and that's the reality of the sport that we're playing with. But things could clear up very quickly, through natural reasons.
Okay, so I'm gonna put it on blast then, Jeff. In a vacuum, Bryce Young or Ewers, who would you rather have?
I would still take Bryce Young, but then I probably would take Ewers right after that.
It's close. Christian, what about you?
Yeah, man. Yeah, Jeff, you might have convinced me there. Or Kevin, you might have too, just by asking that question. That's debatable. I'd still take Young, but I tossed it around in my head for a couple times.
As of right, so to play this out, the way you look at it, I mean, he's a year or two away from being number one, and that's the reality. And so you're buying number one, and you know that you've already shaved off a year. And so if that asset is only going to go up, it's get aggressive with it.
I hear you.
It's close for me, and you guys know I love Young, but I might lean Ewers, to be honest with you. Like, just based on his profile and based where he's at, you watch his tape, guys. He's got a howitzer. Like, that dude, he just throws. He's just built different. Like, he really is. I know that's the young kid saying, but like, there's things out here. Like, and when I look at ADP and I'm looking at like Campus of Kansas ADP, like DJU's first and Rattler, Howland, and Young, we know that. But Keaton Slovis is still going at 5. Like, he's the 5th overall quarterback still. So, like, I mean, you're looking at that. He's definitely 5 then. Like, there's no way in there. And then you look at where the numbers are. Like, I think I'm most concerned with Stroud. Like, I am worried what are you going to do with him? Because he was getting drafted pretty high last year in drafts because everybody just figured, Stroud's going to be the guy for 2 years. He'll be that next guy. I know you said he could transfer to UCLA, Jeff. I know that'd be an interesting spot for him. Like, are we all in agreement though that like maybe Stroud's kind of the outside guy looking in, which is crazy to say, but like based on quarterback play, he might be the outside guy that we have to really be worried about?
Well, I feel like Stroud's going to take the first snap of the first game.
Yeah.
I think he starts all of this year. To be quite frank, but then I think that's not a guarantee going into next year, and that's where I could see the transfer.
And really, if they wanted to play with it and get aggressive with it, you could have 4 games where Kyle McCord plays a lot, and then you sit him the rest of the year, and you can have 4 games where Quinn Ewers plays a fair amount because it's the Big Ten, and you're running him out there against Rutgers, and you get him some live action. But CJ Stroud could be the guy. I don't know. It's one of those, like, it just feels like you're gonna win all these games. Like, you can take the brakes off like at halftime essentially. So
that's fair.
There's more playing time than what people realize. And I know that we're talking about. I look at ETN, and I know that there was some crazy stat, and I remember too with Dobbins in 2019 that like in the second half they didn't even touch the ball for most of the season because that's what you're dealing with in these games that just get lopsided in some of these conferences.
Stroud's the first half quarterback.
Yeah. Which is nuts to see. Ryan Day is playing Ohio State like I do in NCAA 14 in like 10 year in my dynasty. And I have all these recruits and I'm just having fun. And that's what Ryan Day is doing, but it's real life. And it's depressing. I'm not going to lie. Like, it is depressing. Now, to wrap up the last kind of here, I just want to ask a question because this is going around. Jeff, if you're a commissioner in a C2C league or even Devy's kind of drafts are over, but C2C is more of that. Would you make Ewers available in your league, or would you have to have people wait till next year?
If you haven't drafted yet, then he should certainly be available. But if you haven't drafted yet, you're going to have to pull off a miracle to finish the C2C draft. Come up with something fun. Like, I don't know, like fight each other. Like, throw him in there, see what happens. Figure out some sort of way that somebody can get him. I don't know. Let's have fun with this. This does not have to be super serious. Like,
yes, it does. Yes, it does. Now, Christian, what do you think? Do you think it should be allowed or not? Because this is going on in all my leagues. Like, most of my commissioners have said not till next year. But then if he does play a lot, you are losing production from the Ohio State quarterback. And so that, I think, is a big deal, right?
That was my exact argument in our C2C league, Jeff. I said those exact things. I said, how are we really going to lose out on a full year of an Ohio State, one of the best offenses in college football, the quarterback production? And they said, yep. I said, all right. I mean, I can't really argue. There's nothing I can do about it, but I think there's really no good way. There's no good answer for it. And so I think that you have to wait, and it's most likely that he redshirts anyway. So you might lose 4 games. So it's okay. And I don't even think he plays all like 4 quarters. And so it should be okay. I think we'll live if we have to wait. It's just going to be a mad dash. I'd be tanking if it's a reverse order. I'm tanking. Give me Quinn.
I will boot the college season in R2C2C if I can get the number 1 pick and get Quinn.
Yep.
Based on your picks, Jeff, I don't know if you have to really boot it. I think
well, that's what I'm saying, Kevin. It's already God is taking over and taking it out of my hands, and the divine intervention that I don't even need to tank this thing to get this kid, and I'll do it.
I think you're already there.
Right in the stream, straight everybody. Let's go.
I'm sorry. I had to say that, Brew McCoy. All right, we're going to move on. And, we spent a lot of time on that. But it is a big deal. It's the biggest deal in college football. I mean, and that's there. Now, we're going to go to the Big 12, whatever the Big 12 is left. And we are going to be breaking down kind of their teams, their Devy assets, C2C assets, anything that we see, their schedule. We have Iowa State, and that is Jeff. Jeff's going to give us kind of a rundown of their schedule, some Devy relevant players, which they do have a lot. And I like to see my boy Xavier Hutchison on this list. So, Jeff, what do you see here?
Yeah, so 9-11, they start out with the rivalry game, the battle for the Cy-Hawk Trophy with Iowa. And then at 11-6, they've got Texas, and 11-20, they've got at Oklahoma. So those are going to be the big games, and I'm certain there's going to be a massive chip on these guys' shoulders when they're playing Texas and Oklahoma. It kind of feels like the entire conference is – not that they already weren't teeing off on these two teams, but everybody is buckling the chin straps with these two teams this year. And so it'll be interesting to see because they should be primed, and they're probably arguably the best team in the Big 12, I believe. Oklahoma certainly will be there, and it'll be a battle between the two of them. But they've always played Oklahoma tough with Matt Campbell. Devy relevant players, obviously everybody knows the name Breece Hall, nation's leading rusher last year, coming back. He's –
I'm just kidding. Sorry.
Nobody's talking about him, though. Nobody's out there talking about him. Yeah. The nation's leading rusher coming back this year. And so he's going to be in drafts next year. And so he's already a prime Devy asset. Brock Purdy, I don't know that I should have put him under Devy relevant players because
no, he
might be a C2C relevant player. And I took him in the eliminator that I did for John Love's league, for Dwight's league. So I took him there. And so I got him there because I stacked him up with my guy, Xavier Hutchison, who you mentioned. He's a big wide receiver, 6'4". He had 50% of the team's receiving production last year. He's coming back, and he would transferred in last year from JUCO. And so he's already shined, and it'll be interesting to see if he can really take off and be a high draft asset. And then Charlie Kohler is the name at tight end that gets so much looks, and everybody loves him in terms of production. I don't know that it doesn't seem like he really transfers over to the NFL great because he doesn't seem like he's a great athlete. He's just solid tight end. So we'll see how he plays out. Sleepers, I did do a little bit of deep diving that Jalen Noel is a guy that has been getting a lot of buzz in practice. So he's coming in as I believe he's a true freshman, but he's already drawing some eyes and getting some attention in training camp. And he's a guy that Matt Campbell specifically mentioned in the Athletics State of the Program article that I read, and that's where he came from. And then 2021 outlook, they're going to be right on the cusp battling for Oklahoma for a playoff spot, I would have to believe, unless things go sideways. And it's just the Big 12, this conference is just going to be so wild and so many emotions wrapped up every single Saturday. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought up Noel. I like Noel a lot. I brought him up on the Iowa State breakdown I did. Like, he's I think he was a 3-star, but he's quick, he's fast. I think he fits in that role. I love Xavier Hutchison, wide receiver, JUCO kid that came in last year. He reminds you of Tylan Wallace, but like better. Like, I know that's not very good, like scouting, but he really does. Like, he reminds me of Tylan Wallace. Just, I think he's a better receiver. And he didn't come out last year because last year was his first year because he was at JUCO ball. So yeah, he's not going to be that. He didn't come out as a junior, all that. But I do like what I see in him. But yeah, I'm out on Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy is terrible. Stop drafting Brock Purdy in Devy leagues. I got in a fight with somebody about Brock Purdy a few weeks ago, and they're like, oh yeah, he has all the tools, and except for an arm, the dude can't throw. Like, I don't know, and his decision making and his mechanics. Like, I listed like all the reasons, and like, man, you hate him. It's like, no, I don't hate him. It's just he's not an NFL quarterback.
I agree. He plays in a fake offense too. Brock Purdy, I don't think has ever taken a snap under center. Granted, like a lot of college quarterbacks don't, but they would be smart to incorporate some under center work for these kids since that's all they do. We see that as very translatable play action stuff. Purdy still, I last year he was like a top 5 quarterback for people, right? At least in the NFL draft world. I was not yet in Devy. In the NFL draft world, Brock Purdy was like the sleeper. Let's see what this kid can do. And then he flopped. And so I think we're going to see a better version of him. It's an NFL backup, I think, at best. He's a day three pick and not someone that I would really want in Devy. But if you guys want to draft him in my leagues, go for it. Not you two specifically, but everyone else. And then I did want to mention too, Charlie Kohler's like the tight end 2 for Dane Brugler of The Athletic, which I think is interesting because I don't see that. And I normally agree with Dane, so I might need to revisit Charlie.
Yeah, I think Charlie should have came out. Like, he should have probably came out this year and he would have found a role. I like him. There's nothing that stands out to me about him when I watch his tape. He does a lot of things okay, but he's not super athletic and he's not someone that can stretch the field and do those type of things, which I like in my tight ends. And he doesn't really have that. So I think I worry about that a little bit. But Jeff, hot take saying Iowa State's the best in that division, man. I think Oklahoma might have a little bit to say about that.
It'll be close. It's going to be a good game. They always play Oklahoma.
They did.
They always play Oklahoma tight, and then Oklahoma always finds a way to have the officials bail them out of 3 more games, and then they all of a sudden they end up 11-1 and make the playoffs, and then they lose by 40. That's what Oklahoma does.
Haven't you learned a lesson about talking about officials on Twitter and podcasts? Like, there's official Nazis out there. You got to be careful out there.
Now I've learned my lesson on Twitter, but I don't see Twitter anywhere except for down here in the corner of the little bird. But yeah.
All right, let's go to Texas now. Texas Longhorns. Christian looked at it. What do we got down there in the Lone Star State?
Well, we've got a football team, that is for sure. Their schedule is very easy, as is with most Big 12 teams. They get a tough matchup at TCU. I think if I could pick a team that we should have talked about that just kind of missed the cut, it's TCU. Yeah. I think TCU is going to be a very good football team this year. But these 3 rightfully so are on this list. TCU's that one that I think they could take a next step. And so I could see Texas losing that game. Then they get Iowa State, like Jeff mentioned. And then I thought it was funny that not all schools put the conference championship on their schedule, but Texas's schedule has the Big 12 championship on the end of their schedule. I think that might be a pipe dream this year. I don't think they're gonna make it, but their fans will know when it is, so they can be heartbroken. In terms of the rest of their schedule, nothing really stands out. I think they have a lot of winnable games this year. Devy relevant guys. There's this running back, Bijan Robinson. I don't know if you guys have heard of him. He's pretty good. In the same conversation as Breece Hall, except he's better, and he's been compared to Adrian Peterson. So should probably watch him this year. Can't wait to. Troy O'Meara is the receiver that I think is going to take a step up. With some of their receivers leaving, I think that's the guy to go get in Devy. Jordan Whittington is definitely an interesting name. I'm intrigued to see what he can do this year. But a lot is riding on the quarterbacks. I saw a tweet from the company that we don't talk about, the company who will not be named, saying that Casey Thompson is a breakout candidate. And I know, Kevin, you're on the Casey Thompson train as well, I believe, over Hudson Card, but maybe not to the level of Casey Thompson's going to break college football, because that's probably not going to happen. I did put him on this list, though. I think Casey Thompson does have potential. He's got to put some things together. Hudson Card is the guy that I like. I think he's obviously a little raw. He's going to take some time, but that's a Devy asset. He's probably not going to win that job. He's probably not going to get on the field. But he is the preferred Devy asset. In terms of sleepers, the tight end, the 2024 tight end, Octavian Sanders, big kid. And I think that Texas is going to start to incorporate some of their tight ends. I think they just had 2 transfer out, and so he could see a little bit more playing time this year than expected. And I believe he was, I didn't write it down, but he's a top 5 tight end in the class. And I think he could be a big part of this passing game with the aforementioned receivers that have left. In terms of their 2021 outlook, they should be a good team. I think they're building something a little better than the Texas that we've known from the past couple of years. Sam Ehlinger is now gone, so they actually have a fighting chance. And so I think with the ease of the schedule in the Big 12, the 2 games, TCU and Iowa State, those are the games. If they can win 1 or 2 of those, I think they have a good shot to be in that Big 12 championship. But a lot is riding on Casey Thompson. Do you guys have a strong opinion on Casey Thompson? I think, am I correct in saying that, Kevin, that you're a Casey over Hudson guy right now?
Yeah, the only thing I said was I thought Casey'd win the job because he's more experienced, and I thought Sark would like what his kind of what he does. I think he's a game manager-ish. Like, he doesn't take a lot of risk, where I think Hudson is going to take risk, and he'll win you some games, but he's going to throw you ass out of some games too. So, like, when I watch the tape, I think it's going to be kind of a split-ish. Like, they're going to do both. I think Casey wins the job, but I think Hudson's in there too, to where they're going to kind of work and see where that goes. But I like Casey, but no, I didn't see that article. Thank God. Because if I saw that, I'd probably cry. I don't think that he's a breakout candidate for college football. I think it's the Texas on his helmet that is probably having people say that, but I don't think of it as the player. But yeah, Bijan, he's pretty good. I like him. What's going to happen is Robinson did already, guys. It's already happening on Twitter. If you've noticed it, Jahmyr Gibbs is being touted as the next running back 1, saying that he's better than Bijan Robinson. There's people putting it out there, and it's going to be an interesting thing. Like, I'm not going there because I just think that's a straw man argument. Right, Jeff, or what?
I don't know anything about strawman arguments, so I don't know what to say about that. Yeah, he's good. He's really good running back, and I think that they're going to lean on him. It's really going to be interesting because they're going to need to win now. They're going to need to get this thing ramped up here in the next couple years while they're still in the Big 12. Because if they're kind of still lingering at this 10-2, 9-3 type team, and they hit the SEC and whatever conference alignment that they end up in, this team is 6-6. Forget about it. I don't know what we've seen from Texas lately. But Texas has had athletes. It's just, I don't know. They've recruited okay. They certainly missed some guys, and Texas A&M has done much better. And obviously Ohio State has gone in there and pulled guys, and Oklahoma's pulling guys. So if they can start to bring guys, keep guys at home, the Big 12 is such that they should be competing for the Big 12 championship, and they have made Big 12 championships the last couple of years. So it's not like they've been super far away. They just haven't been Texas. And so being able to lean on Bijan, being able to, if the defense can develop, if some of these young wide receivers can step up, because they're losing a lot of production out of the passing game. We can make jokes about Sam Ehlinger, but when you lose an experienced guy like that, when you lose some of the wide receivers that they've lost the last couple of years, they're not NFL talent guys. They're on the NFL rosters, but college-wise, they've had some great production. So they need to win, and they need to win now.
I did want to make one last note. I'm sorry. They lost Samuel Cosmi at left tackle, too. I think that's more of a problem than people would like to admit, because Samuel Cosmi was a very good player, and he's going to start in the NFL year 1, from what I've read. So, of note.
I think that's true. The biggest problem in Texas since Tom Herman's era was they didn't have a quarterback. And I think that's where it starts. Can they develop a quarterback? Can it be there? Ellinger's not that guy. Someone asked me if they should pick up Ehlinger in fantasy. I told them, no, don't do it. He's not an NFL quarterback. All right. Let's go to, you know what? We're going to shift gears a little bit, and we're going to go to Oklahoma now, and I'm going to give kind of a rundown for OU and talk about kind of like what I like to see. As far as their schedule goes, I'm on Christian's van with TCU. They play them October 16th. I love that game. I think TCU could sneakily win at least get in the Big 12 title game. I really do think that offense is very good if we can see them make a kind of a push and their defense come back out of, uncharacteristically, Gary Patterson hasn't had a very good defense the last couple of years. If they can do that, they could have something in the Big 12. Texas, obviously, October 9th. Nebraska, I want to watch the Nebraska game just because Nebraska tried to get out of it, and I want to see how bad Oklahoma beats the crap out of them. That is going to be a fun game for me to watch and see if they run up the score. And in Iowa State, November 20th. And like Jeff talked about, that's always a tough game for Oklahoma. Oklahoma always loses one of these games. I don't know which game it's going to be. And they almost lost to Texas last year. We saw Rattler go for all those yards in the overtime game. Like, realistically, we're going to see that again. So I could see Oklahoma doing that. As far as Devy relevant players, they're pretty stacked across the board. Spencer Rattler, depending on what you think of them, QB2 probably for some people. Caleb Williams, a young freshman quarterback, looked great in the spring game. Unfortunately, he's not the QB1 anymore. Quinn Ewers changed that, but he's going to be there, and he looks like he's next in line. Eric Gray, some people love Eric Gray. I'm not there yet with him, but some have running back 3 to 4. Some have him at running back 2 over Brees, and I'd be interested there. What Christian?
Some NFL draft people have him at 1. It has been reported. I've been reading lately. I'm getting a little scared.
He's going to inevitably see a bump at Oklahoma. Like, we're going to see production. We're going to see those things. Man, that would be a shocker to me. If he got drafted as the first running back off the board, that would definitely kind of throw me for a loop. But, I mean, he's a top 3 asset right now, just based on how people value him. So you got to use that. Marvin Mims is there. Jaden Hasselwood, who I like more than it seems like everybody else in the Devy community combined. But I do like Jaden Hasselwood. I do worry about that he's what NFL used to like in a receiver: tall, lengthy, kind of red zone threat, to where they're going away from that and looking for smaller guys in the slot, those type of things, speed guys. So I get that. Theo Ruiz is there. Mario Williams is getting touted as one of the incoming freshmen that should be drafted very high. Right now, he's around wide receiver 30 to 35, depending on where you're at. Austin Stogner, tight end, who I actually do like. Like, I think he's kind of underrated a little bit in terms of, Devy tight ends. Like, he's legit. I talked about him. He's 6'6", 260. So he's a really good inline blocker. He's versatile. They use him in the slot really well. He had 26 receptions, 422 yards, and 3 touchdowns last year. And in a class of tight ends that it's like blah, after Cade Otton, of course, I really feel like we could be talking about him being a legitimate tight end prospect in this class. Sleepers, running back Mikey Henderson. I like Mikey Henderson. I know Oklahoma people love him because I forgot to mention him on my Devy video, and they were all on my ass, so I went and looked. He looks like he's okay. Like, he looks like he has some explosiveness. That running back room is pretty wide open after Seth McGowan got arrested or whatever for whatever he was doing. So we could see maybe Mikey Anderson 7 in there. I know they have 2 great recruits coming next year. And in the 2022 class, they have some legit Raleek Brown, those type of guys coming. So it'll be interesting to see what they do in that running back room. But for me, if they don't win a national championship this year, it's a bust, or at least get to the title game. Like, they're that talented on the offensive side. I know that their defensive players have gotten better. The defensive, you could see that development last year. It's really going to come down to, can Rattler lead them there, and what do you think of Rattler and as a quarterback? So I think they got to get in the playoff, and national championship is not out of the question with this team where they're at.
Yeah, I don't want to be on record as saying the Iowa State is going to win the Big 12, by the way, because I do not believe that Iowa State is going to win the Big 12. But I do think that is going to be competitive. Hope maybe. I don't know. But I do think that Oklahoma kind of brings up an interesting theory question about Devy, C2C, because we have all these wide receivers, and we're not quite sure where the production is going to land. And so, you're using a premium pick on one of these guys. Hazelwood, I'm sorry, Kevin, to let you know, but he is on the C2C death squad, and so he is certainly not going to happen. But I apologize about that. But, conceptually, you're using a premium asset, and the production from the college side, it might be spotty. It certainly, one of these guys or 2 of these guys can really pop, but at the same time, like, it's one of those things that I don't know. They've got the recruiting capital. They're at Oklahoma. You'd have to believe that they're going to happen, but it just feels like when you've got 6 guys that you might not have 1 guy. And so that just is an interesting theory that you guys are Kevin, you're more experienced with C2C, but I'm just curious how you handle those situations.
Well, I just draft and pray. That's kind of my thing that I like to do. I mean, with this wide receiver room, I basically just look at ADP and value. So like Marvin Mims is going a little high for me. Wide receiver 8-ish, 10. Like I think that I can get better production from a wide receiver. Like I'll take someone else in that category, and I can pull it up here in a minute and see where they're at. But for me, it's all about value. So like I had found that Hasselwood was someone that I was drafting pretty early just because of ADP and where he was going. So like you drafted him probably, I think I drafted him like in the 8 to 12th round, like somewhere in there. It really depends on like who was in your draft with you. To me, I look at it and I say, okay, who's the best value of where I'm getting guys at? I know that's a kind of a cop-out answer, but like, for example, Olave's going at 7, Jermaine Burton's going at 9, Ajee Hall's going at 10, Quentin Johnston's going at 11. I would much rather probably have all those dudes instead of Marvin Mims because I see production, especially like Quentin Johnston. Like to me, that's a legit production, top 3, maybe wide receiver. What is Mims going to be in that class? I get a little worried. But then when you get to Hasselwood, you're looking at, Theo Rees and Hasselwood are going right next to each other. Then you have like Destin Hill, who's not even in college football right now. He's still getting drafted there. Jahan Dotson, Mookie Cooper, Jonathan Mingo. Like, so there's a lot of question marks there. So give me Rattler in that offense with Hasselwood and I'll roll the dice. But we are rolling the dice. Like, let's be honest. Like anybody that thinks that they're not in C2C and with this wide receiver room, they're full of shit. Like they're rolling the dice. They're just, if they're right, they're going to tweet about it. And if they're wrong, they're just going to be quiet and just kind of stay under the radar. And that's kind of the reality. But I did have a question for you and Christian, because I heard this on a pod. I thought it was great. Texas and Oklahoma in the next 10 years, if they go to the SEC, who wins the national championship first? Christian, what do you think? Texas, Oklahoma?
Oklahoma. I think they've got the better recruiting setup right now. But man, that rides on, is Lincoln Riley staying? And I think that is a big question mark. Jeff, what do you think?
Same exact thing. And I think that he's more likely to go to the NFL than Ryan Day, to be honest with you, because he hasn't lived the assistant coach traveling around stuck in whatever move every single year life like Ryan Day has. And so I would say neither, because I don't know. I guess maybe I would say
you can't
Texas.
Say neither, Jeff. Come on.
I would say Texas, just because aren't we supposed to kind of play with the unknown? I don't know. I might be proven wrong, but I don't think Alex Grinch is a good defensive coordinator from what I've seen up close in person. And I just don't think that Oklahoma, maybe they do win this year, and, good for them if they finally crack through, but it just feels like they're always lacking in these games. It feels like when they get into a game with an Alabama or with a Clemson that there's several guys short, and it just always feels that way.
Kevin, I think Jeff hates Oklahoma more than he hates Michigan. I really do.
I do. I hate. I'm telling you right now,
Oklahoma. I don't understand.
Because they stole a playoff spot from Ohio State a couple years ago, and so I'll for always.
They earned a playoff spot over Ohio.
They lost by like 40. No, they are a joke. No, they are not an elite premium tier program.
Wasn't that the year you guys lost to Iowa? Wasn't that the year you guys lost to Iowa?
That was the year we lost to Purdue.
Oh, Purdue, that's right.
The Rondale game.
You should. That my boy Rondale. You'll always be in my heart.
I'm just saying it. Oklahoma and the SEC and the ESPN and Clemson. I'm just not big fans of them. So.
All right. Well, let's go to the rundown. So those are your 3 teams. We have Texas. We looked at them. We looked at Oklahoma, and we looked at Iowa State. Remember, on the record, Jeff is on the record. Iowa State is winning the Big 12. Mark it down in your sports books. He called it here. All right, let's go to the Sportsbook Rundown. Why don't you tell us what we're talking about, Jeff?
Yeah, so the show is broken into 3 different games. The winner of each game is going to receive the hypothetical poker chip, and whoever finishes the show with the most chips receives the turnover chain of immunity and is granted as the show champion and gets 30 seconds of FaceTime to talk about whatever they would like to talk about. And Christian runs the Sportsbook Rundown. He won last week, and so what games are we picking?
We need to double check. I think what keeps happening, I definitely did win last week, but did the robot do its job here?
Probably not. The robot's
I don't think so. We need to retune that
right now, and so apologize to backstage. It's getting hot in here.
All right. Well, if you guys would like to employ the robot to figure out who won last week, that would be phenomenal. While we get to talk about football for the very first time in the Sportsbook Rundown. And granted, it is the Hall of Fame game. No one cares about it. And we actually need to get rid of one of these things because it was already announced that Mason Rudolph is the starter for the Pittsburgh Steelers in the Hall of Fame game this Thursday. You can tell I'm excited. Like, I might have been sleeping I wasn't sleeping literally, but like we have football every week from now until February. I am so excited. So for the Sportsbook Rundown, we're going to do a couple over-unders that I just made up because there are no prop bets for the Hall of Fame game because it's a meaningless game. So the Dallas Cowboys at Pittsburgh Steelers, obviously in Canton. The Steelers are 1-point favorites, a 33.5 point over-under. Very, very low. I don't understand it. I assume that the backups can score a little bit, but the three things that we're going to talk about: over under 2 drives for the Dallas offense, or their Dallas defense, first team defense. Over under 1 mention of Juju Smith-Schuster on TikTok on the broadcast. I will be watching, so I will track that for the robot. And then a score prediction for this meaningless preseason football game that I am far too excited about. So for the first one, over under 2 drives for the Dallas defense, first team specifically. It doesn't have to even be all of them. I'll say 75% of the Dallas defense. Kevin.
I'm going over on this. Dallas needs to get their defensive reps out there. Like I think it's got to be over. I think it's the first quarter they'll be out there.
I will go under. I just think that we played last year without a preseason, and I think teams realized that we don't really need the preseason for their guys, and so I just feel like we're going to not see a lot of starters this preseason.
I hear that argument for sure, Jeff, but I also feel like a lot of teams were rusty the first couple of weeks, and I think we tried to attribute it to a lack of preseason. But I am also going under here because I don't think that the Hall of Fame game even really counts. It's so much earlier than all the other preseason games. Teams are not ready. They've only been practicing for a week and a half. It's pretty absurd that they think that this was a good thing to keep on the preseason schedule. But, tradition, Hall of Fame. And so I will go under. I fully hear Kevin's argument here because I just want to see all the multiple looks. I want to see what they're doing with Micah Parsons because I don't know that they know what they're doing with Micah Parsons just yet.
Well, they shouldn't have drafted him. That was the problem. But we won't go there because this isn't an NFL podcast. So
that is true. All right. Over and under 1 mention of Juju Smith-Schuster on TikTok. It doesn't even have to be dancing on logos. It can just be Juju Smith-Schuster and TikTok. Kevin.
Over. Easy. Easiest money I've ever made right there.
Over. Same.
Yep, and that's a clean sweep. When I made this, it was a clear over. I assumed this would be the result. But yeah, I definitely think we're going to get a clip of Juju dancing on logos. I really do. And then they're going to talk about the integrity of the game because that's the Hall of Fame and all the boomers are going to be angry. Okay, and then the score prediction. Just a total score. We'll give a total number of points, I guess. That would make more sense. Kevin.
We'll say 56. I go low.
Say 47.
And the over-under is really throwing me off because 33.5, we're expecting a couple touchdowns here and there. So I'm just going to go Price is Right method and go 46. and I cheated that. All right, that's the only football game, unfortunately, this week. So we will be talking a couple more Olympics things. We do have men's basketball semifinals this week. It is looking like the U.S. team is looking better. They get Australia in the first semifinal game, and then France versus Slovenia. Kevin, USA versus Australia. Who you taking?
I'm going to say USA, but I will say Australia, they look good. And so, you know what? It wouldn't shock me if we can't hit threes. But I'm going to go USA just because USA.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not picking against USA. I don't know. As
Come
much
on.
as I rail against this team construction, it does seem like they've kind of started to play together. So, USA.
Yeah, and I picked against USA last time with Katie Ledecky, and I did get that right.
And you did win. The robot went back and double checked it. You did win.
Shout out to the robot. Good job, robot. I'm gonna pick Australia. I know everyone's saying, "Oh yeah, they're definitely gonna win gold now." They look a lot better. They do, but they're still composed of players like JaVale McGee, and so I think there's a chance that if there's a team that's gonna beat them here, I do think France can, but it could also be Australia. So, all right, France versus Slovenia. Kevin, who you picking?
I'm going Slovenia just because I want to see my boy Luka in the finals against KD, and I think that would be awesome.
Would be sweet. Jeff?
I wondered why Slovenia was good, and now I realize that Luka. Anyways, France.
Oh, man. If there's one player that I think can carry his entire nation to a championship, it's probably Luka, but I also think France is the better basketball team. So I'm going to go with France. If I'm wrong about the USA one, I think France probably wins the gold. That's my hot take.
As a history teacher, I can't pick France. They've choked so many times. Like I just can't. I can't take them.
That's fair enough. All right, that'll do it for the Sportsbook Rundown. Very excited to have football on the slate every week for the rest of this show. Well, kind of, but all right.
Yeah, kind of. All right, so we're going prospect poker. So the rules of the game are simple. We're going to toss 3 cards on the river. Each holds 2 before we review our NFL camp battles we are looking forward to and our potential winners. So going a little NFL / Devy today, NFL camp battles that we like. And why don't we go ahead and start with Christian. What is your favorite battle? And then we're going to pick the winner after we look at our cards.
Okay. So the one I picked, everyone would expect that I would pick the Justin Fields camp battle. But I noticed that Jeff hadn't been in here, and I figured that's what Jeff would want to pick. So not spoiling Jeff's pick or anything, but I left it available just in case he wanted to pick it. So I went with Ronald Jones versus Leonard Fournette. I actually had a tweet today about it, about my thoughts on the matter. I think it's been interesting to see some of the clips and word that's coming out of Bucs camp. A lot of it is about receivers, and it's really all about Jalen Darden. But I have been keeping kind of a close tab on the Rojo versus Lenny, so that's one I chose.
Good choice. So we've got a 4 of clubs, a 7 of spades, and a 10 of hearts, and Christian throws up a 5 of spades. And so my battle, I did a little bit of Googling to see what the relevant battles were in camp, and I ended up with landing on Justin Fields and Andy Dalton as my battle that I'm looking at. So right now it just kind of seems like every single day there's some good news about one of these guys and not much about the other guy. So I think this is an interesting battle. We thought that we've heard some comments from Nagy early in the season about where this is going to go, and I'm going to see where it plays out. And I'm going to throw up, I got a pair.
Nice.
10 of clubs.
Yeah, okay. Of course. Now, my favorite camp battle is Drew Lock versus Teddy Bridgewater, just because of how bad the battle has been. Apparently, both have not shown anything. Check down. Teddy is not showing anything. His coach is yelling at him. Drew Lock, I guarantee you, is throwing interceptions all over the place. I'm just interested to see this battle because it means a lot for my fantasy teams based on my other assets I own of Denver. And I talked about I want Lock to be that guy just because it's there. But I think this battle is interesting. And it's one of those things that could come down to like week 4 of the preseason where these guys are still battling for this job. So it'll be interesting to see. It doesn't matter, Denver, you screwed up. So you could have just Justin Fields, but you passed on him for these quarterbacks. I'd like you to remember that every time that you talk about how you need a quarterback.
They took Surtain. They got a DB. Oh, Kevin getting interesting. Kevin throws up a 7 of hearts, and he is sitting on a pair as well.
All right, Chris, who do you think is going to win your battle? Rojo versus Lenny.
Oh, my God. I wrote Rojo, come on. It's very clearly Ronald Jones. He was the 11th or 12th leading rusher in the NFL last year. He was explosive. People love to hate on this kid because he came into the NFL as a young prospect, and he has been incrementally better each year. I think we're looking at a dominant first and second down running back this year, one of the best pure runners in the NFL. Leonard Fournette's getting cut, folks. I'm calling it right now. Jeff already called it, I think. And a lot of people are calling it, so I don't get dibs, but I don't think Lenny makes the team. Give me a 6.
You got a 3 of clubs. So flashing back to the Chicago Bears quarterback battle, early in the offseason, Matt Nagy said this isn't even a competition, that it's going to be Andy Dalton. But every single day, the reports come out that Justin Fields is doing more and more and looking better and better. It's going to be Justin Fields. He is going to take the week 1 snaps because he's battling Andy Dalton, and it's Justin Fields. And he is just simply better. And Matt Nagy knows that his job is on the line, and they know that they can look real smart if the guy that they drafted comes in here and dominates the way that he's going to. And this is going to be in October. We're going to have conversations about how did 7 different teams pass on Justin Fields because their quarterback options are clearly inferior. So Justin Fields will be the Chicago Bears starting quarterback, and he is a screaming value in redraft superflex leagues right now. I've been getting him in the 6th round, and it's just great value. Oh,
this guy.
This is bullshit. Did we check these cards prior to you releasing them? We got to check the shuffle here.
Jeff hasn't won in a while, so.
Jeff got trip 10s. Yes. I'll go quick. For me, I think Locke's going to be the winner because they moved up and drafted this guy and they want him to succeed. And it's going to look bad if they don't. Like, I think that they put him in early, the gunslinger, kind of slinging the ball around. I think that he has that. I think it's going to be nice for my assets. And, and also to Jacob Dunn, a guy I do a podcast with, to his credit, he talked about it too. Like, either Drew Lock's going to lead him to the playoffs or they're going to be terrible. Teddy's going to get him to 8-8 or 8-9, and they're going to be stuck in the same situation because they're going to have draft capital. Like, you might as well go a Lock, either win or burn out and then get one of these quarterbacks that we're talking about. And I agree with them 100%. Now, give me a 7 just to break my heart right here.
And Drew Lock has been a screaming value in Superflex leagues too. I've gotten him in the 16th, 17th round, and it's crazy. 4.
Oh.
You got 2 pair.
I would have won.
3 of a kind beats 2 pair. That's about one of the best hands we've had in a long, long time. So good job, guys. Me and Kevin.
Yeah, that was awesome, except for me. Yeah.
Right. All right. So it matters.
It matters. We're going a little blackjack trivia for the first time.
We got a little blackjack trivia going on here. So the way that this works is we're going to play a little bit of blackjack, and you get asked a trivia question, and if you get it right, you can add or subtract your score, whatever is the most beneficial. If you get it wrong, then the worst outcome is going to come for you. So Christian is going to toss up, sitting on a 12.
Of course.
And is this being? I feel like
it's
I always
Kevin.
forget.
It's you. No. Wait, I don't know. I don't remember. I thought
this one's always Kevin. So
okay.
It's 14, and then I've got an 8. All right. So I'm low man. So I'll go first. So somebody got a trivia question for me?
Yeah, I got one. I got better ones this time, so sorry, listeners. All right, so this is all about the BCS era. I felt like that fit you well. You grew up in that time. Most single-season sacks for a defensive player, it was 24 sacks. Who was it?
Terrell Suggs.
Nice. Terrell Suggs, 2002, man-child. He actually holds the record for most career sacks with 44.
Wow.
Okay.
11. Nice.
11. So I'm still low. So does somebody else have a question for me?
I can ask one. It's not football related. I've been asking football related the last few times. So what percentage of cucumbers are composed of water?
I would say 67% of cucumbers are composed of water.
96%. You missed it.
96% of cucumbers are composed of water?
Wow. Allegedly.
This is getting frustrating because I feel like I lose track of what's going on here, and just damn it. No, sorry, Joe. I swore, but I don't know where we're at.
All right, so you busted is what I'm looking at, right?
Yeah, sure, I busted.
All
right.
Well, no. So your 4 would have been whatever is worse for you. So when you have gone down, so you just have to keep hitting technically.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to hit again.
I got hit again.
Yeah.
Okay.
Danny busted.
Cool. All right. Christian
makes sense.
is up.
Yeah. All right.
All
Hit me with a
right.
question.
All right. I know Jeff doesn't have one. So the team. Okay. So during the BCS era, Rivals actually compile this, and they averaged the best average recruiting ranking from 1998 to 2013. So who do you think in that time frame had the highest rated recruits, the rating ranking class?
Miami.
No, not Miami. USC. USC was the
Okay.
number one team.
I was
It was
going with
Christian.
something abstract.
Christian busted. So Kevin won, which means we tied. Which means Christian remains the champion.
Kevin.
Oh,
Kevin won.
I won last
Kevin.
week. Why do you always
Kevin.
screw me, Jeff? Every week.
I'm sorry, Kevin. I don't mean it. It just happened. Okay, so Kevin is the reigning defending champion, and we were not able to uncrown him, but he has an opportunity now for a little bit of FaceTime.
Yeah, you know, it just for me personally, I just want to give a shout out to everybody out there that follows our podcast. We've had a lot of good messages and talking to us, hey, are you going to talk about this? And hey, I'm interested to see what you guys have mentioned on the podcast. We really appreciate it. You know, we spent a lot of time on this. We're all incredibly busy. Jeff especially, that dude writes 75 articles a week. Christian's running his own network, and so there's a lot of things that we go into. Just appreciate you guys. And I do just want to give a shout out to my Triple Play guys. We just hit 613 subscribers on YouTube. We've actually gained over 100 the last 3 days. Really appreciate for all that. So excited about that. And just, we appreciate everybody that's listening. And, Devy's coming around the corner, and just be ready for it. And we're excited to be able to talk some football. I'm so glad we get to bet on football again. I mean, not bet. Don't tell my wife. Just to watch football again.
Love it.
Great job. So next week on August 10th, we will be on at 9:30 on the Going for Two network. Be sure to catch us in that family of pods when we drop in the stream. Until then,
I'm Kevin Coleman at DuBois_22.
I'm Jeff Bell at For Whom J Bell Tolls.
And I am Christian Williams at C Williams NFL, and this is the Devy Royale.